Hello, folks, and welcome to another Thursday Night Live here with Soaring Prophets. Patrick, as always, my special co-host, James, in the bottom, and we got an amazing guest here with us tonight, all the way from Dublin, Ireland. We have Doug Gordon, and Doug is a very cool gentleman. You see how handsome he looks over here with the QR code that will take you directly to his page, some of the things that are going on that he has in LinkedIn, and an awesome opportunity to connect with them. And Doug's going to tell us a little bit about his story, but there's some really interesting things that we learned about Doug kind of in the green room here, is that with a background in finance, managing individuals' money, had some tough times, almost died. That can be a motivator for anybody. And here we are now. This is a man that has reached the top of the mountain, had some setbacks, and is now able to help you, your loved ones, being able to reach that summit once again. So, Doug, I want to thank you so much for joining us. It's always a pleasure. We can get great people and give us the opportunity, like that banner says above me, to unveil the stories of champions. Doug Gordon, thank you for joining us, pal.
Patrick, what a pleasure. James, what a pleasure. Thank you so much. I was just saying to the guys beforehand that Toronto is a good haunt. I've been there myself, had great fun, and went up to the lakes near where these guys both live as well. So a beautiful place, beautiful people, and thank you so much for having me on. So yeah, look, I was 21 years in the investment world, worked my way up from customer services to board director, one of the biggest fund managers in Europe. During that time, I had a lot of fun, great fun in the old days, getting out there with clients, bringing in some money. I grew an asset management business from 50 million per annum sales to 1.75 billion. Ended up in the Times and the Independent for doing that, for success in the city. But during that time period in 2008, as I'm sure we all remember, markets went through the floor. We lost loads of money. I had to lay off staff, got very stressed, didn't realize how empathetic I was towards other people's energies. And ended up the stress led to ailments led to doctors, specialists, 2 operations that went wrong, 4 years of chronic pain like I was being punched in the stomach. And then in 2013, when I thought nothing could get worse, I ended up having a near-death experience down to a virus. And I was encapsulated, actually, this amazing feeling of love, energy, and connection, nothing like I'd ever felt before. Thankfully came back, otherwise I wouldn't be speaking to you today, and changed my life rapidly. Initially tried to heal myself, so became a master teacher, healer of 5 modalities of healing. Then through that healing, then got into life coaching because of the business background, then business coaching, then radio shows on a national radio station, and then actually then got into speaking and authoring and writing a few books and mental health as well. So I've had a fantastic little ride, met some amazing people, been honored with a few accolades along the way, and get to go on great radio shows and podcasts like this now. So it's a pleasure to be here.
That's amazing. So sorry, Pat. So what you're telling us is not much has happened in your life. It's been pretty like level-headed and no. So like it's so interesting you say that. Like a lot of the times that we talk to like real champions, the ones that are changing the world out there, making difference. We just talked to a gentleman who lost his mother, unfortunately, to Parkinson's, and he started a whole like Together for Sharon, a whole business based on raising awareness for Parkinson's and changing government laws. Just incredible. And it sounds like you're very much the same. And I love your story. Maybe you could explain a little bit that moment. So I talk about points of impact. I had a point of impact when I was younger. And I had that moment that I'm like, I have to change or I'm not going forward. This is it. My kids won't have me. The people who love me won't have me anymore. I got to make a change today. Can you tell us a little bit about that moment and, what brought you off your knees and back up, to where you are today?
Well, I have to say, James, there's a lot of them. It doesn't just all bow down to one. I mean, everybody always thinks it's the near-death experience. And yeah, I mean, the near-death experience was pretty tough. I was in the ambulance on the way there, and I remember them telling me in the ambulance that ECG was saying heart. And then I had one of those injections to check to see whether there had been a heart issue. And I actually think I was having what I would call an awakening at the time. And sometimes that can be pretty heavy on any person in terms of, and what I mean an awakening on a grounded version is that a realization that life isn't just about money. Life isn't just about trying to beat the Joneses or something like that. It's actually about trying to find and align to your heart self rather than just your head self, so that you can try and find your true mission, passion, or whatever it is in life, that sense of purpose. Now, what happens in a lot of people is we get to that 40 range, we have this midlife crisis, and some people go through this and have this kind of almost self-awareness, but then just go back to the way they were.
Right.
I didn't do that because I had the near-death experience, and then afterwards ended up, actually, I went and did the church course because I had the spiritual experience, so I wanted to give something back. Went and did this church course, wasn't sure if it was for me, because I do feel that when I was encapsulating that amazing feeling of energy, it was like that energy would never alienate or discriminate against anybody because it's just pure love. So I feel like that religions are like rivers to the sea. They're all beautiful in their own right. They're just different paths to the same thing. And that really comes down to is trying to find love within and then be able to give that love within to others. Because let's face it, hurt people, but happy people tend to give out happiness to other people as well. And I think that's the greatest thing. And one of the things you said there, James, as well, is a lot of people end up getting to a stage where they turn their mess into a message to give it meaning, to help other people in some way or form. And that's exactly what I've done, because otherwise, why do you go through all this crap? Because I truly believe that we're spiritual beings having a physical existence. I also believe, though, if we are that, why would we just come down as you or me? Why would you not come down as the king, the queen, the prince, the pauper, the invalid, the impotent, to experience life in different ways, different perspectives, and different angles, to understand the entirety of this game that we call life? So based on that premise, if anybody out there is having a tough time, maybe pat yourself on the back, because maybe you played this game of life so often that you're testing yourself, the ultimate, to see if you can get through all this shit and come out the other side so there's the best version of you. Now, I will put a little accolade on that, is because some people who I work with in terms of suicide start saying, oh, well, I'll just take my life now and just go and do another one. But I believe that you chose this life for a reason, to see if you can test yourself with the people around you to the ultimate, to see if you can get through all this motion and commotion and still do whatever purpose you're supposed to do in life. And if you take that away from you, you'll end up having to come back down like Groundhog Day and do the whole thing again. So why not get it out of the way now?
So Doug,
go ahead, Pat.
So Doug, it sounds like you have kind of a metaphysical, but also like a spiritual and a philosophical perspective that is kind of uniquely your own. So obviously, as you go through our lives, we have that perspective that is driven by our experiences. So you entering into your life, and you start into the finance world, you're reaching the highest highs of the mountain in that world, managing the dollar values, living that lifestyle. Can you pinpoint, and I come back to this because James always talks about this point of impact piece. You said that there were a number of things, but when you close your eyes and you think of that one thing, what is that one thing that ties all of those multiple experiences back to that singularity, if you will, to bring the metaphysical, the spiritual, and potentially the philosophical back? Because you speak so well on your experience through that and professing that to others. And it's very impressive to hear. But what is that one thing that kind of kicked that can down the road for you to be able to spark that midlife crisis into a proclamation for individuals to grow through you?
Yeah, so I think the biggest thing probably that happened to me, and I will say that, the past is history, the future is a mystery, and the present is a gift, and that's why I live in the now. So I think that we have things that happen to us every single day if we look out for them synchronistically to bring us up to another level, another learning. And we're never at the end destination. It's always the journey in terms of that learning. But if I was to look back at the past, then I would have to say, after the near-death experience, when I went and did that kind of alpha religious course, I actually came out of it. I wasn't going to go back. And I said to the universe, whatever you believe in, I said, give me a sign. And I ended up going running 2 days later with my dog. Dog tripped me up, cut my hand and my knee to shreds.
Oh, wow.
And on my hand, I had an infinity sign here, an infinity sign there, and the letters, the cross in cuts, I-N-R-I, and it was big I, big N, small r, small I. So it's like Jesus of Nazareth here, not really king of the Jews, but go back and do that course. So that was kind of, because even after the near-death experience, my ego was still saying, yeah, go back to the money. Yeah, go back to all that.
Right.
Yeah.
Well, and Doug, to be honest with you, that's kind of, I think, where a lot of people sometimes fall down in their personification of who and what they want to be. And that's when we talked earlier about, what Soaring Prophets is that we talk about unveiling the stories of champions, and James is heal your mind, body, and soul. And I talk about let's make money together, folks. And we are firm believers in is that there is a process to healing your mind, body, and soul. But without that money piece, it's hard to do that. And in your situation, it sounds like you had kind of the backwards. A lot of people heal their mind and body, and then the money kind of thing comes in there because there's confidence. There's a persona that they can walk into a room. They can be more efficient in what they're doing because they've done some things now. But it seems like you did that first and then found your calling and then found yourself. How do you think there is a process that fits into that? Mind, body, soul, money, and it's again doing it kind of in reverse for yourself?
Yeah, well, money is just an exchange for energy that you give out, either through knowledge or time. And I think in terms of my own self, I have to say, when I left the investment world, which I've been doing for 21 years, and I was very comfortable in, suddenly doing something that was completely, alien to me,
right,
put me in an imposter zone. And I think it took, like, even now, I've got 82 different LinkedIn recommendations of people that I've helped. And sometimes I have to look back over them and actually read them to remind myself that I am actually worthy enough to be able to take these kind of clients on, whether they be business clients or Buddha clients, as I call them, and stuff like that. So, as I said, money is an exchange of energy. And in terms of when you work on yourself and when you really look at yourself and make sure that you're aligned in terms of your emotional intelligence, which I think is probably the most grounded version of consciousness, because it is about self-awareness, or even in business, it would be about situational, market, divisional, team, and client awareness as well. So all of those come together in a sense of emotional intelligence. But also then you've got conscious communication. And let's face it, the most successful people in the world, whether it be Richard Branson, Elon Musk, or whatever, they're amazing communicators, because you need to be able to communicate with other people to help and work as a team to be able to get things done collectively within your organization. Also, as well, there's empathy and compassion. You need to be able to put yourself in other people's shoes, one, to find out what they need in terms of clients, but also be able to put yourself in the shoes, because remembering that you guys and I all listen, all speak in different ways, because we're all a product of our parents, our preachers, our teachers, and past relationships and experiences. And that means that, you could see the color as orange, I could see it as yellow. It doesn't necessarily mean that either of us are right or wrong. It's just different perspectives of the same thing. But what happens is that so many people try to push their own opinions and don't really truly actively listen. And that's where the communication falls down. So that's why conscious communication, empathy, compassion, and understanding are so important in this world. And actually, if we all did that and didn't push our opinions and say that other people were wrong and we were right, there'd be so much less wars, there'd be more efficient organizations, because you wouldn't be wasting time about the emotion and commotion, and you'd be focusing on what you want rather than what you don't want. And the last part of emotional intelligence is obviously that sense of purpose, that inspiration, that motivation. Although motive is a reason which is outside you, inspiration comes from the word in spirit, which means it comes from inside you in a place of love. So if you can find love for what you do, love for the people you work with, and love for the clients you serve, in an acronym, I always say you've got lots of vibrant energy. And if you optimize your energy, you're going to be optimizing your life, but also your income as well. Because as I said at the start, money is just an exchange for energy.
Wow, you're just such a great, you're just such an amazing speaker. You flow from one thing to get other, and it links everything together. There are so many great topics in that. So you have helped a lot of people, and that so I've helped a few people, and it's interesting to note that someone of your standing, someone who has helped so many people, sports, business, all different areas, still has that imposter syndrome. Because I've told Pat a couple of times that I'm like, I kind of feel like an imposter. Like, yeah, sure, I've helped people. Yeah, sure, I have the knowledge to help people, but I don't know that I should be the one that does it. So can you explain how someone in your caliber who has helped like high level people, how do you feel like you're still an imposter? Because I think that would help other people who are like starting out and starting to do things and going, gosh, I don't even know if I belong in this space, even though they do.
Yeah. I mean, so when I was in the investment world and I was selling hedge funds, I was making a lot of money, right? So you get to that point and then you have to start again. And you literally, as an entrepreneur and a business owner, you go back down to scratch. So you look at the numbers, and obviously as a fund manager, I still look at the numbers, and you're looking at the numbers and going, gosh, what am I doing? But then you just keep going and you're going and going. And actually it started building up quite nicely. And then obviously COVID happened. And during COVID, then it was like, boom, the corporate training went down. The on-stage speaking went down. And even to begin with, people didn't know about Zoom and how to use it effectively. And it went down. But then I got on the likes of Clubhouse. I don't know if any of you guys have been on Clubhouse, but it's a fantastic app. It's kind of not as good as it was on COVID, but it was a speaking app. And we suddenly connected with people all around the world. And I was on stage with people like Brian Tracy, Grant Cardone, Les Brown, Lisa Nichols, who I know anyway, and many others as well. So it was brilliant. So it was a great opportunity to get to know them. They could hear you speak. They could understand your intelligence. And through that, then you can, project yourself around the world and everything like that. But in terms of where I am in terms of the imposter syndrome, I think it's just, having done something for so long and know you've been successful in it, to suddenly go into something where you've still got your own family going, what are you doing? You're helping people. Like, it was a few weeks ago, I had this girl's mum ring me up and say that her daughter was about to take her life. She'd heard that I'm good at turning people around and that kind of stuff. Could I help her daughter? It's 8 o'clock at night. I was about to have a glass of wine. And suddenly I stopped the wine. I picked up the phone, and within 15 minutes, I turned the girl around. If you read the text that I've still got from the girl, basically says, it's like you talk to my soul. And that's what it is. It is about, like you said, James, earlier on, that I get into this flow state in terms of talking. Yeah. It's exactly right. I just surrender, and I go into my heart space, and I go, I am Doug Gordon, I am my heart. Please let me connect with the hearts of Patrick and James and their audience in order to bless rather than press and add as much value. So what I'm doing here is I'm getting out of that head self, that fear state, into a heart self of love, where I don't really care if I make a mistake, because I'm really trying to add value to you guys and to the audience. And because of that, ironically, I tend to speak better with more flow. And in terms of the imposter syndrome, though, it goes back to the fact that I'm still not making as much money as I probably was in the hedge fund world, but it is getting back up there now as well because of the book and everything like that. And I've got a new conference coming out, which is going really well. It's actually this week. And, because of that, then suddenly you start to feel like your vibe is there, and your vibe attracts your tribe. And I work with like the CIO of Dell, the head of sales of Dell, CEO of Okaco, and I actually coach the former England rugby coach or manager or whatever. So I've got some really good clients. I've coached a Star Wars actress and really good clients, something like that. But you still look at them and go, what have I done compared to them? So and you just think, really? And they're listening to me. Right. And I think it comes down to the one thing I do know I'm very good at. As you can hear, I'm a good presenter, a good communicator, but I'm also good at relationships, because that's how you build business. That's how you manage people. And that's how you develop a sense of happiness in the world, because you create connection with other people, and connection brings in a collaboration and a happiness with other people. Let's face it, sitting around the campfire in the old days telling stories was the way that we all enjoyed ourselves. We didn't have to be on radio. And actually, most of us enjoy a party chatting to friends much more so than actually watching a box. So that's where, when you get back down to the actual basics and you realize, actually, I'm a good communicator, I'm a good relationship builder, and I've built money before, so I can build money again, then you do get out of the imposter syndrome. But when you're looking at the people that you're on the other side of the table with, and you're trying to advise them, you're going, is this person actually asking me about this for? You know what I mean? When they're earning $1 million a year, or two or 3 million a year, right. God knows whatever, So that's basically it.
Yeah, I think, Doug, it's such an interesting aspect, because again, with myself, I do the show Financial Fitness here with Patrick on the Soaring Prophets media piece, and we bring on high-level financial individuals, right? Individuals that are managing large funds. And when we talk to them, they're all excellent salespeople. They're all excellent communicators. And they all simply tell us is that we are just doing the best we possibly can in any given scenario to try to garner a return for our clients. There's no magic wand. There's no magic formula. We are just doing what we can to help these people. And the communication, though, with their client quite often is the way that they are able to break down the barriers to serve their client. It allows their client to sleep a little better at night, knowing that, hey, Mike, Carl, Janet, Helen, whoever, they've got it. They're managing it. It's going to be okay. It's not me white knuckling it on, doing it all myself. But you brought up some of the programs that you're currently working with, and the Charge Yourself Up book that you've done. Maybe you can tell us a little bit about that and how that's led to your success of late.
Yeah, sure. Thanks, Patrick. Yeah, so the book Charge Yourself Up for Success is it's something that just basically comes down to the success that I had in the city, the success I had in sport, and now the success I've had in terms of coaching, consulting, and corporate training, and my healing stuff as well. So the book actually, it's actually testimony by Stephen Covey and Lisa Nichols from The Secret Film, and John DeMartini from The Secret Film, and a few guys from the equivalent of Shark Tank over here as well, and stuff like that. So it's got some really good testimonies of people who've read it, liked it, and nice. put the name on the book. So the book really starts off in how do you create that sense of purpose in your life? How do you align to your true heart self? How do you create that purpose? Or how do you create purpose in terms of what you're doing already if you're not going to move out of it as well? And then it goes into having a look at your own self in terms of sense of self-awareness. So understanding what are your triggers, your traumas, your parental programs, what are the things that distract you from being successful and focused on what you want in life rather than what you don't want? Because too many of us kind of sit there procrastinating or sit there going over in our head and overthinking about people who've wronged us or done something to us. And it's just a waste of time, waste of energy. So I have a system in the book to be able to get rid of those and help those. And actually it's helped a lot of people, not just in business, but also people who are considering suicide, to be able to reframe their mindset and change the way they think, speak, and act, so they're happier, healthier, and living a better life as well.
Doug, that topic is so deep and profound, because again, I can think of every situation that I've ever run into in conflict, whether it be family conflict, whether it be with relationships with my friends, my family, my partner, that sort of thing. That all boils back to scenarios that have occurred earlier in life that have had a situation, and that person is responding and reacting off of that situation, whether it be sibling problems. And, we're blaming X and Y sibling for what mom did and dad did 30 years ago and all that sort of thing. So like the topics that you're hitting in that are so broad, but also being able to funnel down individually for each person to take out a big chunk for themselves. When you have people come to you after they've read that, do you have people come to them and be like, that book, that spoke to me? Like, as I'm turning those pages, I'm hitting the next page going, that's my mom, that's my dad, that's my childhood right then and there. Do you run into that often?
Yeah, because the one that winds people up the most that I have in the book is something that I do when I do my relationship coaching and also business coaching. I quite often people come up to me and say, "Oh, Doug, my boss, my ex-boss, or my ex-girlfriend, or ex-wife, or ex-husband, right narcissist." And I think that word is overused massively because
absolutely
because the behavior of the person is not the character of the person. So we all have narcissistic traits. It doesn't mean we're a narcissist. But actually, the word narcissist, I kind of channeled this in an acronym, is neglected awareness, reflecting conditionings in suppressed self, instigating soul transition. And what I mean by that is sometimes the hardest people that come into our lives generally reflect back areas that we need to self-improve on ourselves. And when we point the finger at others, there's three always pointing at us. So take responsibility for your own change, and you might find your vibe changes and the people around you change as well. And that's why the mirror effect of the people that come into our lives, if you reflect as someone that annoys you or winds you up, ask yourself in some way, am I even slightly like that? Do I have any traits like that? Or do I do it in a different way with other people? Do I slightly gaslight sometimes? Or do I exaggerate slightly sometimes? Because if you do, you probably find that people come in and may lie to you or pretend things to you or whatever, because you're doing it. So if you get yourself into the vibe, you'll attract a different type of tribe. And that's why stop doing this, stop blaming others, and take responsibility for your own change. And then the people around you will change as well.
I love that, because as I've grown and as I've kind of really got self-awareness, first I had to work on my self-talk, which was very negative. I had very negative self-talk, and I had to replace that with new words. And once I started doing that, I started having, like Pat said, I had this kind of awakening where I was more powerful in a room. I was like more confident. I could talk more openly. I could talk more openly about myself. I wasn't hiding. I wasn't afraid. And so that drew other people that were like that, similar to me. And so then I was able to rise above, and I was able to get the people that I needed for my next level. Because I'm with you. When you were talking about spirituality, I think we're all put on this earth to have a mission. And when, I went through a lot of negative things in my life, I think they all got me to this point where I am right now, where I can help unveil your story and other people who've gone through it, because I've gone through it as well. So I understand it a little bit better than the average person, because I have self-healed myself. I've learned how to make changes in my life that aren't going to hold me back. And one of them was letting go of the anger I had to people from my past, of saying it is my dad's fault that I'm this way. It is my ex-wife's fault that I'm this way. No, it's not. I'm a grown-ass man. I can make changes. I can change my personality. I can do anything I need to do to make a difference. Those people should not affect me, and I shouldn't hate them. There's no reason to hate anymore, because, like you said, I'm a firm believer that people together become different people. And when they're separate and they go off and so me and my ex-wife, we weren't good together. But her and her new boyfriend are great together because they're different people, because they vibe differently together. I don't know if that makes sense. Mm-hmm. What I'd like to transition into is your career now. Like, so you talk about helping people with suicidal and rising and helping, like the Star Wars actress. Can you tell me a time that in your life that you helped with a transformation, and it was that moment that you were like, I am in the right place. This is what I should be doing. This is my mission in life. This is why I'm on earth. Was there a moment that you remember?
Yeah, so there's a few, but I'll tell you one that I'll give you a business one, then I'll give you a Buddha one. So the business one was, I was dealing with a C-level at one of the biggest IT firms in the world, and this guy, rock star guy, and I said to him, I was going through the self-awareness technique of triggers, traumas, parental programs, and how you treat other people with them. And he's like 62 now, and I was working with him when he was like 61, and he said, Doug, really? I'm 61 years of age. I'm not going to change. Why are we doing this? And I said to him, I won't say his name. I'll call him John. I said, John, just try it anyway. And you know what? Your company's paying, so it doesn't matter. So he did. So he did this, and he did my exercise that's in the book. And I have a bit of extra stuff, and I do it with actually people as well. And afterwards, he said that his relationship with his wife went through the roof. His 360 with his boss was the best ever he had. And he said that one of his old schoolmates from 40 something years ago contacted him. He hadn't spoken to him for years, and invited him to his daughter's wedding. And he couldn't understand because he hadn't even spoken to this guy for so long. And also his dad, he hadn't had a good relationship, and his brother, he hadn't had a good relationship either. He called them both narcissists, and suddenly started playing golf with them again, and suddenly his relationship changed. So what I realized is actually that this idea that I came up with in terms of the systems in the book and the system that I use with my coaching actually really works. And I came up with it myself. So I was like, whoa, that's kind of cool. So that was the first one. And then I suppose the other one was, I was on Clubhouse, and there's this girl who came on, and she was actually going to we can't say that anymore, take her life. And I was on the room, and at that point in time, I was there, and I was like, okay, I need to work out how to help this girl, because she was literally going to take her life. And I was on a panel with a bunch of psychologists and psychiatrists, and none of them knew what to do. And I just went into my heart space and said, how can I help this person? And actually what came to me was make her gargle, because she'd been in bed for like 3 days, no food, no water. And she said she was just going to kill herself. So I thought, okay, why am I thinking gargling? And then I thought, okay, well, maybe because then she has to drink water. So she ended up getting up and made her laugh as well. And within no time whatsoever, she changed her state from this miserable person to laughing at herself, gargling in front of 50 people in this room. And then the deal was that if she gargled and became the Gargle Clubhouse champion, I'd then give her some free coaching. And she came for the coaching. And we did, again, the same kind of technique, but more for mental health orientated stuff, to be able to change the way she thinks, speaks, and acts, and also look at the perspective of life in a different way. Because I do believe in reincarnation, I do believe in karma, I also got her to look at in a perspective, because she'd been, excuse the what I'm going to say, but she'd actually had the worst thing a woman could have happen to her sexually. So I was saying, okay, well, have a look. Let's not excuse the person, but let's have a look at the situation of maybe that person went through abuse as a child. Maybe that person had no love. And not excusing them, but to be able to understand it rather than, excuse them. And to be able to give forgiveness, not for them, but for you, so that you can release that energy. Because what happens is that we have this energetic connection with everybody we meet. And their vibe, when we connect and create a consciousness with us, creates a consciousness between the two of us. And what often happens, if we have a narcissistic mother or father, we go away with that same consciousness, and we attract the same vibration again and again and again until we change. And that's why if we can give forgiveness, which is one of the greatest gifts that we can possibly have to anybody, regardless of what they've done for us, then it heightens our vibration, and it'll change the way we think, speak, and act about other people. And then hopefully, because we're vibrating a different type, then we'll bring in different types of people as well. So they're the kind of things that when I saw that happen, and also actually I do healing, and I had a guy who basically wasn't able to run again. I did a knee healing on him, and he ended up doing the marathon. I had a sports star he had an injury on his knee as well, and he was out for 5 weeks, and then he ended up being back the next week when I did the healing. So seeing that kind of thing is kind of cool as well, and yeah. So that's kind of thing.
I think it's amazing. So you brought up something that it has been a recurring theme in Soaring Prophets. So we knew a young man named Bob McCabe from Recovery and Speaking Initiative, and he we worked with a few people that unfortunately were assaulted sexually, and he was one of them. And he talked about I don't want to call this person a priest, because unfortunately this priest, formerly a priest, sexually assaulted them. And he talked about being at the graveside. And he said the most important thing was forgiveness. And I said, and Pat actually came up with, how could you forgive someone who did that to you? And he said, well, no, I didn't forgive him necessarily. I let go. I forgave the part of it that had to do with me, my connection to it. And I let it go. And it was a huge relief to me. And that's exactly what you're saying. And I think that's amazing. What I'd like to, because I think right now, suicide, I don't know, are we supposed to not say that anymore? Ending our lives, it is kind of a place that we're going to be moving into, because there's a lot of people who are suffering from poverty, a lot of people who are suffering from unrest, and unfortunately, due to the economic structure, it might get worse. So I wonder if you could help us out, out the profiteers out there. And so if they come across someone who may be wanting to end their life, what can they do to help? What is your best advice to them to help?
Well, going back to the fact that we're spiritual beings having a physical existence, right? The greatest gift that we have in our own selves is the gift of the 5 senses. The gift of sight, of being able to see the sun, the sea, the stars, the skies, the mountains. And if we truly are grateful for that and appreciate that in a present moment, it's amazing how grateful we can become. Also, the gift of being able to hear the whistle of the wind, someone telling you that they love you, or the waves crashing on a beach, because there are people who cannot hear or see. Also being able to taste, let's face it, taste wine or chocolate. And there's many people out there after COVID who can't taste. And also be able to touch in terms of a kiss or a hug, which are free and sometimes the loveliest things that we can have in life as well. So it's the 5 senses that really give us a taste of true nature and true gratitude. And if we can break it down, instead of looking for the dopamine hits, to be able to look for the gratitude that we have in the simple things in life, then it makes life a little bit more enjoyable as well, and grounds us back into why we might be just here. Because too many people are looking and comparing, themselves to other people, rather than comparing themselves just to the person they were yesterday as well. And if we can really focus on just being the best version of ourselves, and remembering that when we give love to other people, it's sometimes the greatest gift that we can give to ourselves. And I don't mean giving for the sake of looking for attention or giving for the sake of receiving. I mean truly giving from a place of love. Because there are too many people that I know who work in charities and stuff like that. Some of them do it out of love, yes. But some of them do it and they get competitive within the charity to see who's the best. And that's not really love. So
the selfie when you're feeding the homeless man on the corner. Blows my mind. And it's a very, again, you being in Dublin, I'm sure you consume a lot of American culture and a lot of media and that sort of thing. But it's a very odd phenomenon that we are going through right now in our Western culture, that here, I'm going to hand you a sandwich. Aren't you happy about your sandwich, Mr. Homeless Man, as I'm filming myself doing it? And I don't know where, and we're content creators. Like, we're constantly looking for the next story, the next angle, the next spin, the whatever. But when you are going out of your way and you're putting that human life, that being that is on the side of the road, not having their best day, and you're using that to clout chase, or you're going out there to personify an image that clearly is not a natural one of yourself, there's a lot to be said about your own ego there. Than, says more about you than it does them. But Doug, tell us a little bit about your Leadership and Life Mastery Summit and what's going on with that. It sounds like, was that something that just wrapped up, or is that something that's going to be happening?
It's well, it depends when this podcast is going out, but it's literally on the 25th of Jan. So it will be that day. It will be that day. So so we had we had Jack Daly, who's based out of San Diego, and he's the #1 speaker in terms of leadership and sales with Vistage, with the Entrepreneurs Organization. He was the UK Overseas Speaker of the Year, Australian Overseas Speaker, amazing guy. And so he's speaking. We have Pat Falvey, who's done the North Pole, South Pole, Everest twice. Wow. He's speaking. We have Karen Kaplan, who invented the brand of the kiwi, and she ran Freida's Produce, which was making about 70 million per annum in terms of revenue with only 50 staff, which was quite incredible. And she sold that business last year, and that business was going for 60 years. Then we've got, who else we got? We got Dave McGowan, who owns 8 magazines, including Together magazine, which is Europe's biggest lifestyle and personal development magazine. Sells about 1.3 million copies, actually physical copies every year. And that's unusual for magazines these days.
Absolutely.
And then a load of other great speakers as well. So yeah, look, we're talking about leadership, sales, life mastery, mindset mastery. It's a conscious leadership, conscious communication, and conscious relationship type product. We've got, I think we're aiming for 500 people. I don't know if we'll get quite 500 people, but we've got a lot of great people signed up and coming along. And it should be a great day, very interactive. And we're looking to do more of these. We're going to be doing one in Belgium, in London, do another one in Dublin, and we might venture over towards the States at some stage as well.
Well, I'm just saying, I hear Canada might be interested in doing something. Just throwing that out there on a national level. If there's anything we can do for you, get in touch with the Soaring Prophets. I'll get my people to talk to your people to see what we can do there. But Dick, I think it's wonderful what you're doing. You're clearly passionate about it, and you're bringing these, the names that you're just listing off there, these superstar names in the industry that are out there helping people as well. But when you look around that space, and again, sometimes in certain industries, there's the people that are really hard hitting and they do it for all the right reasons, and it's a beautiful thing. And there's sometimes that are, and I don't want to use charlatan. I think that's the wrong terminology. But people that are just there for the dollar bills. And you've had relationships with financial people like Grant Cardone, where you've done the speaking pieces around them and that sort of thing. When you get to that level, and it's a level we hope to be at one day, when you get to that level, is the justification for why people started still there? Or does it sometimes lose the heartfelt nature? And if so, how can people hang on to it? Because it seems like you're doing it for all the right reasons.
Yeah, well, so when I was in the financial world, obviously, I had the 2 houses with no mortgage. I had the cars with no loans. I had the 5-star holidays. I had that all. I was going to Monte Carlo and helicopters, all this kind of stuff. And it didn't make me happy. And I thought, I'll be happy when I have this. And I'll be happy when I have that. And I'll be happy. And it wasn't. So to be honest with you, what I do now, and I remember at one stage, I did a 580 million sterling deal one time while I was in the while I was in the investment world. That was a big deal because you make about 75 bips on that, so 0.75%.
I was going to say about a 1%. So you were given a deal. So I'm with you. I like it. Yeah.
Yeah. So that's a big deal, right? Didn't make me happy. What makes me happy is seeing lives change, helping people and everything like that. Now, having said that, if there's a business that I work with, like Dell, like Facebook, like Samsung, anyone like that I'm going in and working with, if I can see teams changing, working better, more collaboratively, and more in a happy state, and remembering that actually the energy that they put out there in terms of the tools they give their clients can actually better lives, and reminding them of that every single time, then that gives me a sense of purpose and passion and love for what I do. And that's what it's all about. Because let's face it, there are many people that struggle to drag themselves out of bed and drag themselves into the office every single day. And yet the same person, when it comes to holiday time, spring out of bed, spring into the taxi, spring into the airplane, spring into the swimming pool with loads of energy. So I think it's really important to find something that makes you spring out of bed every single day and keep that sense of purpose. And what will happen is if you keep doing it and keep faith in it, you'll eventually start to make some money in it as well. And what you think about and you think about, you bring about. So be grateful for all you have. Be grateful for even small clients coming to you, and you'll bring more to you as well. Because what happens is people get a client, they sometimes start complaining, I wish I had a bigger client. I wish I... Don't do that. Be grateful for the ones that you get. Treat them like absolute kings and queens. They will tell other people, and then you'll get more clients coming to you as well.
It's amazing.
That's so cool because I had an amazing career. I worked with children who had autism, but then I got to that point where it wasn't giving me fulfillment. For lots of reasons. I had some personal problems in my life. I myself was unhealthy marriage. And I convinced myself, like you said, if I lose 152 pounds, everything will be better. If I make more money, everything will be better. If I do this, everything will be better. If I go on holiday, everything will be better. None of it made it better. It just was temporary fixes. Nothing made it better until I started healing my mind, body, and soul. Until I went in and I did the work and I made myself love myself. That was my key moment, loving myself. Once I loved myself, everything fell into place. I forced this guy below me to start doing this podcast, which is the absolute joy of my life now. It consumes my days and nights and makes me spring out of bed every day. Because like you said, I used to drudge right through Monday to Friday, and I'd always organize something on the weekend that I'd be excited about so I could get through the drudgery of my week. And but now I have that thing, and we started. So when we started Soaring Prophets, I looked around me and I got my buddy Mike, who was a Reiki master. I got a woman, Pat got a woman that was a nurse that he knew, just people we knew around us. Like, we didn't really know much. And that led to the next person. We met Lisa Browning, who was a publisher in Guelph, who led us to Bob McCabe, who is the creator of Recovery Speaking Initiative, which led us to, and now we're talking to people like you who are cut above and are changing the world. And I just think that's amazing. So what I wonder is, what do you think? Because those were my obstacles. My biggest obstacle was not loving my fit self. All these people you work with, has there been a key, a similarity, some sort of mindset or obstacle that they face that you notice that they had to overcome? Like, is there something that we should be looking for that is most common in everybody that is stopping them from having the life that they love so they can leap out of bed every day?
Yeah. Do you know what, James? You said it earlier on when you were talking about your ex-wife and sometimes that separateness and togetherness. And do you know the most important thing I think what happens in relationships is, because I can tell, James, that, and obviously you as well, Pat, and I am as well, we're caring people. But what happens sometimes in relationships is because when two people really care about each other, sometimes one person can go into the office, have a really crappy day, and come home and want to throw the toys out of the pram and vent to the other person because they trust them and they love them. But the other person then, because they're caring, they get wrapped up and embedded in the other person's energy. And what happens then is that the vibration of the person who's venting gets entwined in the other person's energy, and then there's an explosion, and that can cause arguments and ruckus, emotion. So what we need to do is, if you truly love someone, is to keep that emotional intelligence to be able to hold space for the other person. So when they're giving out and when they're venting and then when they're going all over the place, you hold space in a place of love for them and understand, as I said earlier on, the behavior of the person is not the character of the person. Wow. And when they come back into balance, when they've let go of that energy, when they vented it, and be honored that they're venting it at you, and just hold that space and imagine, almost, you mentioned Reiki earlier on, that imagine like there's a bubble of protective violet light around you that's just transmuting all that negative energy into positive love. And you're just sending it back to them. And it's amazing that quite often with kids, and I've worked with these kids and I had it with my own kids, is quite often they'll say, I hate you. And you just say, well, I love you. And I hate you, and I love you. And eventually they break down, they start crying and say, I love you too. I just so hurts inside. So that's why it's so important, is to hold that space, hold that love, and wait for them to come back into balance. And that's in all relationships, both in business and in life as well, is to hold the space and have non-judgment about another person. And remember, like I said earlier on, that we all come from different ways. We all think and speak and act in different ways. So if I have 500 people there at my Life Leadership and Life Mastery Summit, I could have 499 different versions of what I'm saying in that conscious room. So that's why it's to appreciate that, understand that, and just be there for them, if that makes sense.
It makes complete sense. You said it poetically and so eloquently. So I've dealt with, I worked with a lot of children with behavior, and my key, I was just talking to a teacher about it today. I said, my key point of difference between me and you is that I do not react like every other adult. When that kid throws a fit, gets upset, is swearing, I come in with, what's going on, bud? What's different today? And I just hold that space. Like you said, I didn't realize it, but that's what I'm doing. I'm holding that space and allowing him to be safe, to feel safe. And I literally say those words to him. I say, bud, you're safe. No one's going to hurt you. Everything's okay. but we need to talk about this so I can help you, because you don't want to be like this. You don't want to feel these pains or this angst that you're feeling. Let's work together. Like, how are we going to fix this? Instead of coming in and go, you stop that right now, put that down. And immediately, because it's that supportive hand-holding space that, one, they're not used to. So it's kind of a shock, much like the woman that you helped where you said gargle. It was a funny moment, but also a moment that took her away from her circling thoughts. You know, you're pulling them away from their circling thoughts because you're doing something different. And I think that's beautiful. A lot of what you do is different. And I think that we can learn amazing things from you. And I could talk with you all day, because you and I are like linked in many ways, but I wish I spoke as eloquently as you do. But we both do speak from the heart, and we both love people, and we have an empathy that knows no bounds, much like Patrick downstairs there. I just want to thank you for coming on the show. I heard you on another show, a friend of ours, and as soon as I heard you talk, I knew that we had to have you on the show because our profiteers needed to hear your voice, your message. I really am happy that you came. Thank you so much for your information and sharing. And I'm going to take a lot from this, our talks. Profiteers out there, couple days, we're going to Healthcare Amplified. I think it's 2 days. Watch out for us. We'll have videos of us on the plane. We'll have videos of our poolside. We're going to make those connections, much like we've just been talking about. We're hoping to make a lot of connections. We're hoping to bring more stories into your houses that you can learn from and rise above. If you're hurting right now, if you're lost, if your thoughts are attacking you, stop. Just like Doug there said, stop. Use your senses. See the things around you that you can appreciate, because not everyone can see. Hear the things around you that you can appreciate, because not everyone can hear. Do what he said, because I think that's a beautiful thing. Appreciate what's around you, because you know what? Part of my healing was that I stopped thinking about what I didn't have and started thinking about what I did have. And a lot of it was two beautiful children that are doing amazing, that need me and love me. And you'd be surprised how powerful that is to keep you on that football field, moving that ball forward. Doug, thank you so much for coming. Profiteers out there, let's heal our minds, bodies, and souls together. Patrice, get up here.
Yeah, Doug, again, thank you so much for joining us. It was a pleasure chatting with you. And again, with what you're doing with charge yourself up for success. Clearly you are passionate about what it is. You could tell, I don't know, the profiteers likely caught a little bit with James there tonight, where there's a bit of emotion behind a lot of these topics, right? And for us, we love telling people stories and shining light on amazing people. So if you have an opportunity, check out the book, check out the Leadership and Life Mastery Summit that's going to be on Thursday night. This will also be airing Thursday night, so hopefully you can get a replay. Or if you get an opportunity, get in touch with Doug Gordon himself. This QR code beside us here will get you right to his LinkedIn page. You can see all the accolades that Doug has earned for himself over his life and all of the testimonials for what he's doing for people now. So from me, folks, again, super excited about the Healthcare Amplified Summit at PodFest that we're heading down to Orlando for. If you get a chance, come by and see us. There's going to be about 10,000 of our closest friends there. So we'll be the guy that are probably the life of the party at the bar. We'll see how it ends up going. But from me, folks, as always, let's make some money together. Doug, please take us out. Give us some words of wisdom, a little bit of advice that you can give to our profiteers out there from yourself so that they can live maybe a little bit cleaner, more fulfilled life for themselves.
Sure. So I always say gleam your inner light. And G is for gratitude and giving to others. L is for letting go and also learning, because if you continuously learn, you'll continuously grow. E is for energy, optimizing your energy to optimize your performance, but also emotional intelligence, what I talked about earlier on. A is for authenticity, because it creates trust. And M is meaning and meditation. And remember, the meaning of life isn't necessarily making a load of money, although that's useful to help more people. It really is understanding the end of your life. When you look back at your life, you're going to look back at how many hearts you touched. And that comes down to the free things and simple things, such as kisses you give, hugs you hold, and kind words that you can pass on. So go out there and give as many kisses, hugs, and kind words, and live a life of love with lots of vibrant energy.
And with that little message, he summed up the show perfectly.
From Doug all the way from Ireland. Thank you for joining us, guys.
Thank you, guys.